Hello everyone, Theophilus here. Welcome back to my channel. So today, I want to talk about vision. Just about being more of a visionary kind of person. One thing I've been learning about anything related to self-development, namely entrepreneurship, I think for young men that's like the main thing, that's like the main hurdle in many of our lives is finances and getting our finances in order, especially in the West where we got a lot going on with the economy. We got a lot going on with, say, the job market, the education system, etc. It makes it to where a young man has to learn how to make money on his own. He has to go out and find people that will tell him about how to make money because, quite frankly, society, the school system, our parents, many of these people, they just learn how to be a good worker, how to retain information to get through the next exam, how to just work hard enough to pay the bill, just how to do the basic thing that needs to be done. And many people that are older than people my age, I'm 23, soon to be 24, but many of the people my age, they only know how to or people older than me only know well, you just got to get an education, you just got to work, and that's what you got to do. But the economy's changed so much that it doesn't seem like that's an option for the average person. The average person can't work a 40, 50 hour, 60-hour a week job and make by and pay the bills while living on their own. A lot of people can't do that. A lot of people are working two jobs just to be able to pay the bills. And I'm not even talking about saving money. That's just to scrape by, just to pay the bills. Working the average job, I couldn't survive. I wouldn't be able to just get an apartment and pay rent and pay bills and pay my car note and pay my phone bill and pay for my own food. I would not make enough working the average 40, 50, 60-hour work week. And it's tough, and it kind of sucks. But if you just think through history a little bit, I'm diverging a little bit, but just think through history. The lower class people were always destined to just be working just to scrape by, you know. Now, back in the day, we didn't have electricity and all these things that took majority of our income, but they would work to be able to maybe pay whatever property tax they have and pay for their food. And they would make their own money, or they would find a way to, maybe they were farmers and they made enough money to feed all their crops and their plants and their cattle to provide for them food. There's all types of little things that people had to do to just make it. But the person that was always at the low tier, the person that was always the poor to middle to higher third class, even a lower middle class. The middle class seems like is more of a rare thing. Typically in societies there was the poor and the rich, but you kind of get what I'm saying, right? Even though we have these modern luxuries, right? Like I'm sitting on a soft mattress right now. I have a roof over my head, air condition, all that, right? Which is great. The average person back in the day didn't have that, and so comparably, being third class is comparatively better than it was back then. But the poor didn't have $300 car note, $400 insurance, $1,200 rent, $200 a month on food by themselves, $200 phone. You get what I'm saying? The poor also didn't have all these expenses. They were poor and they were only making a little bit of money, but they were making enough money to, survive. And maybe they had a little bit of extra money that they put into either their savings or investing into other things to make more money, or, whatever the case may be. A little bit of side rant, but it's like we're shifting back into more of an entrepreneur kind of economy where everyone kind of worked for themselves. The farmer, back in the day, the farmer would work for themselves, or the blacksmith or whatever the career was, people would just work for themselves and they would make contracts with other people or they would work together on little projects. The whole like company owning, basically owning employees, it seems like it's more of a rare thing, and typically it seems like that would only happen. I won't speak on that. I won't get too far into that. I want to understand that more just so I can understand how the jobs have changed and how, things like that. But making it out of being third class or lower middle class, it's pretty difficult nowadays. And one of the reasons why it's difficult is because the modern school system and how we're raised and how we're brought up and the traditions that we're taught usually goes something like this. Go the safe route, get a career, get a job, just to be able to pay the bills and survive. We're living in an age where doing that isn't really working for a lot of people. And a lot of people are going their own way. A lot of men are going their own way. Women are out competing us, the men that are our age, 23, 18, the early mid 20s. The female counterpart is surpassing us. They're making more money, etc. And making it out of this place that young men are in, it's difficult. It's difficult. And we don't really have much like mentorship or guidance like right in front of us to tell us how to get out of that. I can go further into that, but I don't want to go too deep. And for me, because I had to learn a lot of these things by myself, it was really difficult. And many times I would feel really depressed and I would feel really frustrated and I would feel really just troubled or angry that it feels like it's so difficult just to scrape by that trying to make it out, it's like it adds a whole other layer of stress and makes it to where just working hard to scrape by and pay the bills and then using the rest of your time to just waste it, whether that's chasing girls, whether that's doom scrolling, whether that's worse habits like drugs or pornography or something like that. It makes it because, you're tired, you're physically and emotionally drained. If you have relationships that are not going that well, that will just add stress to the equation, right? Young men, responsibilities are placed on us. Seems like the only way to really make it out is entrepreneurship, and the mindset of entrepreneurship is very important. I'm learning that you have to have a vision for that. It can't just be a want or like a dream or like I hope to achieve that one day. It has to be something that you're putting before you currently every single day. One thing I did today is I woke up and I thought, because I was feeling just not good. And I was just thinking, like, well, how to get into a better mindset. Not necessarily how to feel better. Many times we're erring, young men, because we're trying to figure out how to feel better, right? Example, meditating. Just focusing on your breath, breathing in, breathing out, focusing on being present in the moment. I was taught that at a young age that doing that is supposed to like help with like anger problems. So when you're angry, just breathe, count to 10. And then sometimes I would count and I would breathe and I feel like it doesn't work. And I get more frustrated, more frustrated. The point isn't to try to lessen the feeling of anger. It's not to just do it until you don't feel angry anymore. The point is to learn how to focus and be present so that even when you feel stressed or when you feel angry, you're able to think more clearly and you're not so blinded by your anger. You're able to focus and do what needs to be done, even though you feel all these emotions, even though you feel sadness, right? And being a visionary helps with that mindset. Quick update, I'm on Substack now. I put it in my bio. Substack. I originally got on for, there's a guy named Dan Koe, Dan space Koe, and it really talks about the mindset of entrepreneurship, the mindset that you want to have, and how you can look at life kind of like a video game. You know, many of us when we were young, we played video games, and you create your custom character, and then you make them how you want them to play, and then you level them up, and you learn how to play the game, and then you get the attributes to make your player better, and to get more status, to get more money, whatever, to have a more enjoyable experience in the video game, right? If you're playing a fighting game and you pick a striker, but you don't upgrade his striking ability, he's not going to have the best health, he might not have the best stamina, he's just going to be getting beat up. And then you want to upgrade that striking ability so that you compete with other people that have more health or more stamina, right? You get what I'm saying? And that's a mindset that you can have for real life, right? I'm sure if you're a young man, there's a certain kind of woman you want. Well, how the dating market is, it's not like it was in the 1940s, where, you know, a young man and a young woman just kind of get together in high school or in college, or they court at a young age, or they go to their local church, and, the parents are like kind of over it or helping them match make. And then, they get with their high school sweetheart, and then they get their regular job, and then they live happily ever after. It doesn't work like that anymore. With the current economy, and I'm not going to get political, but we live in a culture that is post third wave feminism, post the feminization of our culture, post everything that's going on in the economy. And that's not really possible anymore, because the average woman, just going to throw it out there, the average woman, once she hits 18, she has access, maybe not relationship wise, but in terms of attention and sexually, for simply existing. She's at her peak, she's at her prime of beauty, and she has access to men that are just out of your league financially. They might have been in the gym, they might have gotten their bodies in order, they may have more status, they may have more knowledge and experience in the world, to where they can kind of be the man to like lead her through her life. And it's easy for a man that's older to take the girl of a man that's younger and less experienced, because you're still competing with those men. Just kind of throwing that out there. I don't want to get too deep into that. But, you have to upgrade your attributes. The kind of relationship you want. It's like there's a skill gap. It's like you have to be on a certain level to be able to even achieve that. The average man can't just get that, or he's going to be running in circles and dealing with all the just BS that modern men have to go through in dating. So what can you do? You can kind of skip all that, or you can play the game, but learn to love the game, not hate the game and its players. You learn to love the game, play the game on the side, and then focus on your main mission. Focus on getting your finances in order. Focus on your mindset that you need to have. Focus on building your body. Even getting into martial arts, something that I want to do in the future. Focus on building an online audience, being an entrepreneur, if that's the route you want to go. If not, whatever other career you want to do. You got to have that before you. Because if you don't have that before you, if that's not what you're looking at, if that's not what you're thinking about during the day, it's going to be easier to go to the bad habits. It's going to be easier to just waste time. It's going to be easier to just give up. So like, for example, right, I was kind of blessed. I wasn't blessed with height, but I was blessed with a fast metabolism. So though I don't gain body fat easy, I also have to work to gain muscle. But the little bit of muscle that I have, I kind of kept it throughout the years, which is good. But someone like me with high metabolism, if I wanted to gain 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds of muscle, which would take years, I could look at men that started off like me and see how they got to where they got and know that, well, if they can do it, I certainly can do it. Maybe I don't feel like I want to do it. Maybe it will be difficult, but I can still do it. You know? I like to use Andrew Tate just as an example. You know, he's built the body of a man that is a fighter. And he's maintained that physique consistently throughout pretty much most of his life. In fact, it seems like he's only added more muscle and retained that muscle since then, since he was about my age. I look at a man like that and I think, well, he can do it. But he didn't just wake up and he was kickboxing world champion. He trained and trained. Like, these young men were in combat training when they were like teenagers, right? They trained and they trained and they trained, and it took discipline and consistency. But he's got to where he is now, and he's still keeping up his physique so much that he's trying to get in the ring with men that are younger and bigger than him. You get what I'm saying? I see him as an example, and I listen to the things he says, and I look at his content, and then I think, I want to get there. I don't like where I'm at now. I want to get there to where he's at. You know? You could take away the supercars. I personally don't care for a supercar, but I know that the mindset that he had that made him want to get that supercar is important, right? Having that drive inside of you, just the masculine desire to build the wealth necessary to be able to purchase that and it not hurt your pockets. You know what I'm saying? How do I get to where that person is? How long would it take? How did he get there? How can I use the things that he teaches in order to get to that point? You know? If there's a man that's just really good with women, you can use him as an example as well. But he's also at a point where he's not really limited to location either, right? Look at a man in your area that is successful with women. How does he get to where he's getting? You probably won't get the results that he's getting instantaneously, but you can learn the mindset that he has and the approach that he has towards dating, and you can use it logistically. You can try to put into practice the things that he does in your own personal way and learn, and use dating like a game that you want to learn and get better at, because you're going to have to deal with women if you're attracted to women. But these are examples, right? And then think, right, when you feel angry, at the end of the day, if you feel irritated, you feel like you're being pulled in every direction and all your energy is being zapped out of you. You feel like at the end of the day, you don't even have energy to put into an online business if you wanted to. You feel like you're so frustrated you can't even sit still and focus and think about how to build a project if you wanted to. But if you learn meditation, if you learn journaling, if you learn about educational content, if you learn about how to reflect, you'll get home and it'll be in your conscience. Well, I'm irritated, but I know that if I meditate, if I just look at a little bit of self-development content, I'll be able to get into a better mindset. And then you'll know I can do that, or I can go to the instant gratification, the bad habits. And the more you convince yourself of how terrible the bad habits are and how good the good habits are, then in your mind it's not going to be that difficult to just not go to temptation, right? You can get home and you can feel tempted to doom scroll on your phone. But if you're so convinced in your mind that this is going to be an utter waste of time, and I can still use the little time and the little energy I have left to build something productive, when you do it, if you do it, you're going to feel guilty about it. You're going to probably feel a little bit ashamed. You're going to think, oh man, I wish I would have just meditated and journaled and reflected about my day. I'd probably feel a lot better than I feel at the end of the night of doom scrolling on my phone, right? Or just texting random women. Something I can still struggle with, but I actually deleted the dating apps I was on because I'm like, this is just wasting my time. Like, how much time a day do I spend swiping? And like, I'm not getting the matches. I also wasn't blessed as some men were. If you're over 6 feet tall and you have a decent face, you have an advantage over a lot of men. You have the ability to grab their attention quicker. Now, once you grab their attention, you have to be able to still play the game. That'll get you in the door, but if you don't know your way down the hallway, you're just gonna trip and fall. But yeah, once I understand female, just female nature, and I understand what's going on in the, you could say the sexual marketplace. That's the term that's used. I don't know that I'm probably not gonna get any results trying to text these people online or even texting people that I know, because they also got like 10, 12, 20, 30 other guys just like you in their inbox. So if you're not standing out, you're probably just wasting your time. And it's a even those that you're texting, it's like a 99.999% chance that you'll probably never meet them. You see what I'm saying? So if you're conscious of this and you know this in your mind and you're logically convinced of it, it's going to be easy to just put the phone down. Especially with meditating. That's what helps with thinking clearly and self-control. You see what I'm saying? If you're logically convinced of what you want to do and you know you can do it, then you're going to be conscious. I'm consciously letting myself down. I'm consciously wasting time. I'm willingly just throwing away my potential. Then it'll start irritating you. I've gotten to the point at times where I'm scrolling or I'm texting some girl and I'm actually having a good conversation, but now I'm like, this is probably not going to go anywhere. So I'll put the phone down. Even while I have like girls messaging me, I'll put the phone down and I'm like, this is a waste of time. I don't want to do this anymore because I'm logically convinced of the pros and the cons. And that even if I could have some kind of relationship with a lot of these women, it's probably not going to go well if I don't have my stuff together first and foremost. Even if I get in the door with the relationship, it's still probably not going to last very long. But I could still play the game because I want to learn the game and master the game and be a master at the game, so that when I'm at that level, I'll have had experience and I won't just get played. But you see what I'm saying? Then it makes doom scrolling look idiotic. Yeah. I will admit I've had some time of just wasting time looking at content over the past week, and I'll look at my YouTube history and I'm like, how much time did I spend? It may have only been 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, but that time adds up. You think all this time I spent looking at this and got absolutely nothing out of it, and you'll start to get irritated. And then you can feel tempted to do it, and you'll feel upset and frustrated that a part of you even wants to do it. Then eventually you won't feel like you want to do it. You'll feel like, I only want to make progress in my self-development. I only want to do things that are actually going to help me, that are actually going to benefit me, not something that'll make me feel a little better temporarily. This is how you get in a disciplined mindset. You just become convinced that you need to do the good thing and not do the bad thing. And this also helps for even when you slip up and when you mess up. Because then you learn, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to sit there and waste more time? Or am I going to get up and do what needs to be done? You see? If you can understand this and just let your mindset change over time, because it's not going to be a quick mindset change. It's going to take some time. But if you let this kind of understanding change your mindset, you'll find self-development is not really as difficult as you think it is. You'll see that a lot more of it's just in your head. You know, I want to get to the point where, I'm just gonna use dating again. Many of us men are sex starved and deprived of female intimacy, or deprived of intimacy, and deprived of just female connection in general, right? So this goes on, this it's just how it's been, and it's how it's going to